I probably have to. It's your tweaker.
I've been waiting on the sun to come up, so I can't hide it, getting high in my income, comes breadcrumbs. I've been trying to survive the cold as the sun keeps going around to say, help me realize, just tell me about your world, you were gonna turn out fine, oh, turn out fine.
Okay. These Ghostbusters. They're busting ghosts out of the way. Alright, yes, ma'am.
See? Told you.
Okay. Alright, today we're going to get started on using our worthwhile words. I told you we were going to get started on that a little bit ago. So you are to want to have them written down. You're going to want to keep them. That should probably go away. So I don't see it again. Or else it'll go in my drawer. The other day about having vocabulary, we were doing vocabulary words. I'm calling them worthwhile words because I like alliteration and I like the word worthwhile. So we're going to have so many words. Like worthwhile words is what we're going to call it. So if you'd like to take out your notes, we put on regular worthwhile words now. Along with the definitions as we go through them. We will revisit them periodically. We will have a quiz over them in probably 2 weeks. So not right away. And it will probably also show up on if we have a I don't know. But yes, the rest of the words. Okay, so here they are. Our first word is huddle. Huddle. What do you think of when we hear the word huddle? Yes.
Penguins.
Penguins? Okay, what else do we think of?
Like huddle up in football.
A huddle up in football? What do you mean when we say huddle up in football? What do we mean? What do you do? They get close together, right? When I was younger, you said huddle up in football. Everybody got in like a big circle. You got everybody in a circle, and everybody put like their arms on each other's shoulders, and they all stood like this, kind of like half bent over. And there was somebody in the middle, normally the quarterback, telling you what they were going to do. Right? That was the plan. I don't see it that way anymore because it just takes too much time to do that. What you see a lot of time now is you just see like the linemen, the big guys, all standing in a row with their backs to the defense, and someone's, the quarterback telling you, right? So what does it mean? What does it mean to huddle up? To huddle. If you're huddled, what does that mean? Why are you doing that? What does it mean? To group up? Okay. Can anybody come up with another idea of what huddled means? Or another time we use huddled? What about when we have, yeah. Okay, they huddle around a fire, right? They gather around the fire. They might huddle around a fire. You don't have to be in old times. You could be out camping and do that. Huddle around the fire.
Well, we like all huddle together when we do
When they do lockdown drills, right? You guys all huddle to a corner. Or when they do tornado drills, they tell you to huddle in a corner, right? But during a tornado drill or a drill, you're not like in a group and sitting there going, okay. Billy, you're gonna take the tornado, and you're gonna run that way, and then you're gonna pass the tornado to Joe, and then Joe's gonna lateral it back to Jimmy, and he's gonna run. Is that what you do in a tornado? Is that what you do? You huddle up and you discuss the plan of what you're gonna do? Is that what you do during a tornado? During a tornado, after the tornado's done and you're done huddling up, do you all put your hands in and go, team, and then go out? Is that what everybody does? No. So what do? Into a defensive position. You find it suggests a need for defense. A huddle suggests that you're defending against something. In football, what are they, when they huddle up, what are they defending against? Their voices, they're afraid of their voices. Okay, so they're trying to hide their voices, right? They're defending against the other people finding out what happened. When you huddle up in a tornado drill, what are you defending against? Okay, but is it really the tornado itself that you're probably going to shoot? What is it that you're hiding from? Let's stick with a tornado drill. What is when they tell you to huddle up during a tornado drill? What do? What is it you guys do?
We crouch down on your knees and put your head down under
Okay, you crouch down, you put down, and you're supposed to put your hands overhead or your neck over your neck, right? Why would you do that?
So that objects don't hit your.
Right, you're defending yourself against falling objects or flying objects, right? You're defending the vital areas of your body against falling or flying objects, right? In a lockdown, we huddle up in the corner, creating a defensive or a hiding position from someone who might be guys. Lastly, we mentioned huddling around a fire. What are you defending yourself against when you huddle around a fire? The cold, right? You're creating a defensive wall to keep all the heat in around you guys and keep the cold out, right? You're forming a defensive wall. So a huddle suggests you need some sort of defense. You're defending something. All right, cultivated. Cultivated. Does anybody have an idea what the word cultivated means? Or have they heard it before? Yeah. Something that's been mixed and put together. Okay. Has been cultivated. All right. What else? Okay. Something that has been cultivated and captured and put away. Anybody else? Another one? Okay. Something that's cultivated is refined or well educated. So about something that's cultivated, you can cultivate an idea. Let's say you get an idea for something, you want to do it. And as you are going through, you start to refine. As you learn more, you start to make better. When I first came up with the idea for this tree, right? This is not at all what I envisioned. In fact, the first idea that I came up with was just a skinny, tiny tree that would just kind of hide these cables, might be run along the side of it. It would be this tiny little thing, right? It was going to have, actually, the top was going to be like an umbrella. It was going to have branches on the umbrella to make it look like a tree. It was really, really kind of silly, the more I think about it. But as I started looking into more ideas, I started cultivating it. I started refining it. I started taking out things that I didn't like or that didn't work very well. And I started adding new things to it. What are things that we will probably end up cultivating in this class? Can you give an example of something we'll cultivate in this classroom? Maybe the rules, maybe we might change some of the rules as we go along if we need to. We'll probably have to make them a little harsher. A story, right? You write a story, come up with an idea for a story. And you start writing it, and you realize, this isn't a very exciting story. This isn't going very far. We need to change it, cultivate it. We need to refine it. Yourselves, you're going to cultivate yourself, refine yourself. Do you know what it means to refine something? Can we think of something else refined? When you refine something, you take out the impurities, the things that... So like when you take, if you were to go out mining, do you just steal right out of the ground? No, pull out of the ground. Oh, dirt. Do you get steel from metal? Is it metal? You get steel from iron ore. You get iron ore. But iron ore has all these other stuff in it. You can't just make like steel right from it. You actually have to heat it up. You have to take impurities out of it. You have to add things to it. Carbon mainly to make steel. So you refine it. You make it better. Take things away and you add things to it. That's why they have an iron refinery. And they do that. They make iron out of iron ore. They take the bad stuff out, they put a couple things in, and they make iron. Or they make steel. You have a steel refinery. Or an oil refinery. You don't just pump oil out of the car and put it directly into your car, right? They have to tweak it. They have to change it. They have to take stuff out. They have to put certain in. To cultivate is to refine things. You're going to take things out. You're going to put things in. You're going to make it. All right, cunningly. Anybody have an idea what cunningly means? Cunningly. Do something cunningly. Kendall. Strategically? Okay. Strategically? Yeah.
Like smart.
Smart, outwitted. You do something cunningly. It is marked by or given to artful, subtlety, and deceptiveness. Kind of a complicated definition, right? What it means is, does everybody know what subtlety means? When you do something subtly? Has anybody ever done anything subtly? You know how to do something subtly? When you do something subtly, you sort of do it in a soft way. You don't, it's not harsh, it's not mean, and you can do it in a little bit quiet way. It would be like this. Let's say I was walking down the hall, and everybody knows Mr. Right? Let's say Mr. Everly was coming back from lunch, and he had a nice pizza burger for lunch. Pizza burger, it's really good. Pizza burger. He had a pizza burger for lunch. He's got a little pizza sauce right here, deep, right here, right? And I see him on the pizza sauce, and you know, like Mr. Everly and I are friends, so I don't walk around the whole rest of the day with pizza sauce on his face. That's not cool. Even if I wasn't friends, I still like that. You want to listen to me. No, we don't. Oh. So you see, he's walking. Now, do I just look at Mr. Everly and go, "Hey, you got sauce on your face"? Is that the way you handle that situation? Not really. What? How would you not? How would you handle? How should you? How would you handle that situation? How should you? What's a subtle way of handling that situation?
Like trying to get his attention and then to
You can tell it to him really. What's it? You can always you can do like this thing. Like that whole thing, you kind of make it look like you're seeing your own face, and then like, oh, you know, like you don't say, you don't really call attention to it. You just sort of like point, you know, like, and you know. It's one of those things that you just know. It's one of those subtle cues that you just. It's sort of like if you're not paying attention to us, and I don't want to just call you out and say, Justin, start paying attention in class. If I don't want that. What's a subtle thing that some teachers do to not call you out in class, but you know that you're... Okay, this is not private. a tap on the shoulder. You can quickly walk past someone you know is just drawing or something like that and just tap them on it. And they, you know, nobody else may, but they know that I'm watching. Another thing. I do that. That's my favorite one. That's my favorite one. I don't always stop talking, but my favorite, because everyone knows I move around the room a lot. So I move around the room a lot, and so a lot of times if I see somebody who's doing something that they're not supposed to, I just moving and I just stare at that one person and just talk directly to that one person for as long as I need to talk to that one person until they realize that I'm doing what I'm doing, and then they stop. Which is sort of a subtle way, not that subtle because I'm definitely staring right at them and they know, but I don't have to like say anything. They figure it out, you know. They know. Alright, so we're something subtly. You're doing it kind of quietly, kind of softly, not making a big show so that people aren't noticing it. You're not just like screaming for everybody to hear. But there's another part of being cunning, is that there's possible deceptiveness. So you may not be fully honest with what you're doing. So if you were to come in tomorrow, let's say you have tonight, you're not going there tomorrow. So let's say you did. And you came in to class tomorrow, and you didn't do your homework. And you didn't do your homework because you were up, you were way too busy watching Bring It On. It's a movie. It's a movie about cheerleading. And you came in and I asked you, you had your homework, and you said, Mr. Brenner, I didn't do my homework. I really didn't have time doing research for cheers that we're doing cheerleading. Are you being fully honest? No, what were you really doing? You're watching a movie. Unless you were watching a movie. So you're being, but were you being completely dishonest? No. Is it possible you get ideas for a new cheer if you're a cheerleader and is it possible you get ideas for a new cheer by watching a movie? Yes, it's possible. So there's a little bit of deceptiveness in it. You're not fully lying, but you're not being truthful. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of deception. So people do things cunningly, a lot of times have a little lie in them. I can think of a profession right off my head that immediately associates with cunningly. Sometimes lawyers. Sometimes lawyers aren't necessarily truthful, but they're not necessarily lying either. They're skirting the law. That's their job. What's another profession or another job you kind of think of when you think of people who are cunning? So they're sort of slightly in their deceptiveness. Not really. They never make decisions on that. Detectives can be, like sometimes you see on like law shows where a detective might not tell a suspect the entire truth in order to get them to confess to something. So sometimes you get that a little bit. What about like a used car salesman? Right?
Antique car.
Yeah, the Carfax guy, right? So you have all the Carfax commercials where you have some guy who's like, oh, it's got a little bit of body damage. And they're like, it's been 3 accidents. But it's just got a little bit of damage, right? So that whole, they're being cunning. They're just a little deceptive, right? Being subtle about it. They're not just screaming out the lie. They're being really subtle. Right? Okay, provisions. What are provisions? Yes. Food and water that you save. Is it just food and water? Are provisions just food and water? Items that you save. Why do you save them? Why do you save them? Maybe they're valuable or important to you? It could be necessary to have them at a certain time. All right, provisions, necessary supplies. Any type of necessary supplies. Can anybody think of when you would need provisions? Okay. Zombie apocalypse. What type of provisions would you need for zombie apocalypse, Patrick? Guns and stuff? Although I find that interesting because most of the time when a lot of zombie movies, like guns have only like no effect. Like, unless you like hit the one weak spot. I don't watch them. What other type of provision you need in a zombie apocalypse? Okay, not in a zombie apocalypse. A composition notebook and jars. School supplies, right? School supplies are necessary provisions. You need them, right? How many walked into the very first day of school, absolutely nothing in your locker, nothing in your backpack? You had nothing. Like, you brought nothing with you the whole day. Yeah? Huh? Pretty much? That's something. So you had one necessary. Better. So, necessary provision. When I was old, you went to school the first day with nothing. Because you didn't get that. You know how you guys get that list? You can go to Walmart or Target and you get that. This says Murphy Junior High supplies, or you go Junior High 308 supplies, and you know you need to get these things right for your classroom. When we went to school, we got that note on the first day. So you walk into the first day of school, you didn't have it. Right? You'd have a backpack. It was empty, except for your lunch. Maybe if you bring your lunch. Empty. You got that note, and each teacher was different. They required different supplies, so you get a different note, and then you went to the store. And then you tried to buy everything really quickly. And you had to get before everybody else, you'd avoid the lines, and so you could actually be everything you need. Right? What's another time that you need, so we have zombie apocalypse, first day of school, what's another time you need provisions? Kendall? In a Sharknado, probably some provisions in a Sharknado.
Oh, I just saw that dude.
If you're at home, okay, you might need somebody. You got somebody sick at home, they might need some medicine.
In Ramadan,
Twinkies? Okay. Okay. Now, what about when you go camping? If you go camping, do you take provisions with you? Yeah. How many guys go out into the woods and try and like find food out in the woods? I know Connor does. Connor eats squirrel and muskrat, whatever you can find in the woods. Connor's a true survivor, man. He goes out there, takes a couple twigs down, and a squirrel with him.
Does he eat dirt?
I don't. Do you? I don't know. He says no. But you take provisions with you when you go camping. When you go camping, what do you think is the number one most important provision to take with you when you go camping? Number one. Number one most important supply is no. Water. Okay, water's pretty good. Toilet paper is a good one. I got, originally I wasn't going to say bug spray, but I heard bug spray earlier, and I actually have to move that in my number. My number one would have been s'mores. If you go camping and you shop for your s'mores, you might as well just stay home. No, if you have s'mores, you got nothing. I can build a shelter out of graham crackers. Bring s'mores. Bring s'mores. All right, moving on. Moving on. Fetid. Oh. Fetid. It's not a dead animal. Fetid is not a dead animal. You got to read the whole thing. A fetid is a dead animal left in an enclosed place to produce a fetid odor. Right? So you can say it's like the smell of something dying or dead. Right? It's a terrible, terrible smell. When I lived in Hawaii, one of the biggest problems we had in Hawaii started out not so much as a problem. It was actually kind of cool. When I lived in this house, and we immediately noticed that we had a lot of things. And at first we got really worried and we were going to call the Terminator, and we talked to a couple of people about it. We noticed we had a lot of spiders, and we had a lot of goats. Now, being from the Midwest, we didn't really have, like, you might get some ants every while. If you live out in the country, you might get mice. Where I live, I'm always in the city. I've never had a problem with mice or anything like that in my house. So having these geckos and spiders everywhere, I did not like it. And so we talked about calling someone to come care of them. And how many people, they told us, you don't need to worry about that. They're a good thing, because the spiders and the geckos eat all the other bugs. And so you don't ever have to worry. If you have a number of spiders in your house and a number of geckos in your house, you never have to worry about getting mosquitoes, because they eat them all, right? You don't ever have to worry about them. So you don't have to worry about them. And the geckos are friendly. For the most part, they stay away and they don't mess with you. The spiders, unless they're cane spiders, which get to be about the size of your hand, they mess with people. And as long as you ones up in the rafters, those are you just want to leave below. Leave the ones that are out of the way that aren't going to get into your stuff below. We did, and it was great. We barely had any problems with bugs at all. It was actually kind of fun sometimes because you'd just be sitting there watching TV and you like geckos just running all over the wall. It was really funny to watch. They were silly. But here's the problem. The problem with the geckos, you know anything about geckos, right? And they'll go to any place where there's bugs, or where they think there might be bugs. And bugs like to hide in cool, dark places. So there will be times where a gecko might get trapped in the couch, and they wouldn't be able to get out, and they would die, and no one would know about it until one day you're sitting there watching Monday Night Football, going, what is that smell? And of course your immediate assumption is, it's got to be Tony. It's got to be Tony. Tony was my roommate. I was like, it's got to be Tony. I know he was eating Mexican food last week, and last night, and that doesn't work with him very well. It's got to be. And then Tony leaves and goes to work, and it still smells horrible. So it's not. So then you like start checking your own. So you're like, are these new socks? Like, what is it? You start checking around. You figure it's not you. So if it's not you and it's not Tony, it's got to be something else. Maybe somebody dropped some nachos in the couch. Maybe there's a pizza slice underneath or something. So you start digging through, and then you find the gecko. And it is disgusting, because if you thought it smelled bad when it was under the cushions, oh, wait till you take those cushions away. Some would not believe that something so little can cause so much stink, and it is nasty. That is fetid. That is the smell that you can think of when you think of fetid. It is, it's putrid. It's offensive to your nose. You want to run away and hide. It's a terrible, terrible smell. Okay? So when you think of fetid, I want you to think of the odor that goes along with finding an animal someplace. All right? Okay, next one. All-pervading. Anybody want to guess what all-pervading means? All-pervading.
Kangaroo Court.
We're talking about all-pervading right now. All-pervading. Anybody want to venture a guess as to what all-pervading means? Not even a guess?
Something that pervades all.
Good call. Good call. Something that is all pervading. I'll give you an example, and then you guys can tell me. Well, I'll just give you the definition. I'll give you the example. All pervading, spreading through or into everything. Right? I'm going to give you two examples really quickly of things that are all pervading. Things that are all pervading can be as simple as a song, right? It's a song that started out as like nothing, but all of a sudden starts showing up everywhere and in everything. And it's on TV now, and it has commercials with it. And the guy who wrote the song is all of a sudden showing up in commercials and on TV. Anybody have an idea what song I'm talking about?
The pistachio commercial with
Gangnam Style, that song. It went from like nothing, a little joke on YouTube, to being in everything. And here's an example of how I know it's all pervading, right? 2 weeks ago, my wife's aunt, who's in her 60s, got married, right? She was married when she was younger, but her husband passed away. And she was single for a very long time. And then just recently, she got reconnected with her high school sweetheart. And after 43 years of being apart and not seeing each other, they ended up getting married a couple weeks ago. So they dated all through high school. They broke up right at the end of high school. They didn't see each other for 43 years. They met again. They fell in love. They got married. Very cute story, right? So we had their wedding 2 weeks ago. Anybody want to guess what played at this 60-year-old wedding reception? Gangnam Style. Yeah. They didn't even know what the song was. But they're like, let's dance to this. It's fun. They didn't even know. But it's there. It's all pervading. It's in everything. You can't get away from it, right? It's everywhere. The new one that sort of seems to be all pervading is, and it's fine right now because I love it. I think it's awesome. Is the new Camel Hump Day commercial.
I haven't seen it.
It's so all pervading.
Everywhere.
It's so all pervading. It was in our morning announcements today, right?
What?
They said it in our morning announcements. I say it when I walk through the halls on Wednesdays, right? I was listening to the radio this morning, and they were talking about, does everybody know who the Dallas Mavericks are, the basketball team?
Yeah.
Okay, Dirk Nowitzki, he's the star of the Dallas Mavericks, right? They actually just released a new commercial advertising the sale of their new tickets. All like the tickets for their new season just went on sale, are going on sale in a couple of days. Well, they recorded a commercial to advertise this, and it's Dirk Nowitzki walking around the office of the Mavericks, doing his version of the Hump Day thing. So he's like walking up to people and he's like, hey Mike, guess what day it is? Mike, I know you know what day it is. It's game day! So he's doing his own version of it. But that commercial has been all pervading. It's in all kinds of it. Basketball stars are imitating it, right? So it's all over the place. It's all pervading. Kangaroo Court. Our next one, Kangaroo Court. What is a Kangaroo Court? Patrick.
It's when kangaroos. No.
Maybe. A group of kangaroos.
A jumping person. It's like something kangaroos did and it's smart.
Okay, something that kangaroos do is really smart, and now people do it.
It's an arena. And people get kangaroos and they make them fight to the death.
Okay, it's a kangaroo UFC to the death match.
A bunch of kangaroos. No, people being like kangaroos in court and jumping.
Okay, it's an unfair, biased, or hasty judicial proceeding that ends in a harsh punishment.
Oh, what?
It is an unfair, biased, or hasty judicial proceeding that ends in a harsh punishment. I'll tell you really quickly where the term comes from, and then I'll give you guys an example. Okay? Does everybody know? Everybody knows the country and continent of Australia, correct? Everybody knows that?
Yeah.
Does everybody know how that place got started? Like how? I mean, obviously there was the Aboriginal tribes that were there originally, but does anybody know how the English white settlers first started going there? What its purpose was? Why Australia was there? Outlaws, they went there for a specific reason. Why? They were sent there. It was a prison island. It was a prison. Australia originally was a gigantic prison for Great Britain. Great Britain took all their outlaws, the people that they did not want in their society, and they put them on a boat and they sent them there. Exactly, like a big version of Alcatraz. Now the reason why we come up with Kangaroo Court is because what would happen a lot of times is someone would get accused of a crime that they didn't commit, but they were accused of it just because they fit the certain type of person that might commit that crime. And they couldn't prove who actually committed the crime, but they thought that this person might have committed it. And so instead of having a fair trial where they actually figured out who really did it, they just convicted this person because it was easy, and then they sent them off to Australia. And since kangaroos come from Australia, they referred to those type of quick, harsh, biased, unfair proceedings as kangaroo courts. You got sent off to Australia if you ended up in a kangaroo-style court. So here's an example. We're going to give this as an example. Let's see. Lauren steals a horse. Actually, before we get this, does everybody know? Let's go back to American Old West. Does everybody know what the punishment was for stealing a horse? Patrick?
Being hung or something.
You got hung. Hanging.
It
It was like hanging.
so easy.
It was like worse than stealing a car, right? It was worse because a horse was your sole livelihood. If you lost your horse, you could end up trapped someplace and die if someone stole your horse. So stealing a horse was punishable by death, right? Okay, so back to our story. Lauren steals a horse. Now, really quickly, because she doesn't want to get caught stealing a horse, because if you steal a horse, you get killed, she sells it to Lexi. Now, Lexi has a horse. Now, she didn't know that Lauren stole it. She thought she's buying a horse. Now, Lexi needs the horse because she is a former Confederate soldier who has left the South because the North has won and she doesn't want to get prosecuted for being a rebel and a traitor. So she runs away to the Old West, and she's living in the Old West, and the only work that she can find is that certain people will hire her as a gunfighter, because she's a gunfighter, and she's really good at it, right? So, do you think she has a really great reputation?
No, not really.
Do people think of her as an upstanding citizen who always does the right thing?
Nope.
No, she's a traitor. She's a rebel. She's a Confederate soldier who ran away. Who ran away and then becomes a gunfighter, right? So, Lexi's riding around on this stolen horse that Lauren stole. Lauren stole it from Justin. It was Justin's horse. And it's got Justin's mark on it. He put his brand on his horse, right? So that everybody knows that it's his horse. It's got his mark on it. Now, Brandon, the sheriff, comes riding through town. And he sees a horse outside of, let's outside of a hotel. Outside of a hotel. And it's got Justin's tag, Justin's brand on it. He knows that someone's stolen Justin's horse. So he goes in to find out who is riding that horse. And he asks, who's riding this horse? Lexi picks her head up from her game of poker, where she's been cheating for the last 10 minutes because she doesn't have anything. And she says, that's my horse. What do you think Brandon does? No. But he arrests her, right? He arrests her immediately and takes her off to jail. So Lexi goes to jail. They have a really quick trial because Justin wants justice for his stolen horse and he wants his horse back. And Lexi keeps saying, no, I didn't steal this horse. I bought it from Lauren. And everybody's like, I don't know Lauren. And you know why no one knows Lauren? Because she's already in Mexico, man. She's gone. She gone. She stole the horse. She got the money for the horse, and she split. So nobody knows who she's talking about. Do they believe her?
No.
No, she's a traitor. She's a rebel. She ran away. She's a gunfighter. She's no good. She's no good. She's a bad seed. So guess what happens to Lexi?
Kangaroo Court. Death. Just to get
Kangaroo Court. She gets to send to a kangaroo court. It's unfair, right? It's totally unfair. She didn't get to stand up for herself. They didn't listen to her. They didn't try and track Lauren down at all. It's biased. They went into it already thinking she's a rebel, she's a traitor, she probably stole this horse. It was quick, it was hasty, because Justin wanted justice and wanted his horse back immediately, so it was quick, it was hasty. And finally it ended in a harsh punishment. It was a very harsh punishment. Okay? So, the lesson to be learned from all of this is...
Australia.
No, don't buy horses from Lauren. That's the lesson to be learned in all of it. Okay, we have what, 2 minutes?
We have
1 minute?
like
Okay,
1 minute.
we'll finish these up when we get back. We actually have, there's only 3 on the board because the thing wouldn't let me put the 4th one in. So we have 4 left. We'll finish up the 4 when we get back, and then we're going to do a journal writing activity. And then when we're done with that, we have another activity on cause and effect to do. So we'll finish up these 4 when we get back from break, which should start. But I don't want to start this one and get interrupted. Yeah, but then you definitely would have been guilty. Then it really would have been.
Yeah, but then I could have went to Mexico.
You could have. You should have gone to Mexico and joined, and then you could have hunted down Lauren.
No.
Let's go.
Today that Lauren's a thief. Yo. Whoa, hey. Are those yours?
Don't buy horses from Lauren. Hey. I didn't come. You know who else feels hard? My profile? Huh? Brooke? Lipscomb? Brooke, my other horse thief. I'm trying to remember what my other victim was. I'm trying to remember who the victim was in my other class. In our horse thief story, who was our other victim? No, Marley was a rock band. In language arts, who was the victim of the horse thief? I don't remember who else got hung. Jacqueline. Oh, Jacqueline got hung. Jacqueline was our victim. You were our gunfighter, our victim. Hey, how's it going?
Wait, what kind of horses do you
They're
get?
awesome.
You gave me them like white colors. They're little settling. Or my little pony.
Go ahead and get started. Just to let you know, in case anybody was wondering, I did the exact same example with the horse thief in my other class. Brooke Lipscomb was our horse thief. She started. Brooke Lipscomb was our horse thief. Which is what made it funny. Jacqueline Wolfschlager was our victim. She's the one who got killed. I don't remember who owned the horse, who the detective was though. So Jacqueline was our victim. She's the one who. She was our mean, nasty gunfighter. Okay, so let's move on to our next word. Apprehensive. So can anybody tell me what apprehensive means? I think it's a pretty common word. People use apprehension or apprehensive on a fairly regular basis. What does it mean to be apprehensive? Kendall? To understand something? Okay. What? Any other ideas of what it means to be apprehensive? What do you think it means to be apprehensive? Anybody? No? Yeah, what do you think? Cooperative? Okay. Yeah, I think you guys are going to be really surprised when you see what it actually means. Fearful! Fearful! When you're apprehensive about something, it means you're fearful. But not fearful always in a scared way. It's not necessarily like you're scared of something. But you might be skeptical of it. You're apprehensive. You're not sure about it. Examples of being apprehensive. Well, actually, let me ask you, does anybody think of an example of when you might be apprehensive, when you might be fearful or skeptical about something, unsure about something? About bungee jumping, exactly. Bungee jumping is something to be apprehensive about, right? Is it 100% safe? No. Things happen, right? The bands could break. You could have it tied wrong. I've seen things where someone has put it on incorrectly, and even though the cords are right, people get hurt. Your limbs are broken or something like that because it's tied wrong, right? Or maybe it's not attached to a strong enough point. That's happened once or twice before. Where someone has gone bungee jumping and it's not attached to a strong enough point, and whatever it is they're bungee jumping off of breaks. Right? So, bungee jumping is something to be apprehensive about. It's not 100% guarantee that it's going to turn out perfect. Anything else to be apprehensive about? Going off a high dive or skydiving, especially if you're afraid of heights. And skydiving, most of the time going off a high dive, what's really the worst thing that's going to happen probably to you is you might do a belly flop, and that stings a lot. If you don't swim well, you could drown. You could hit your head off the back of the thing. So, but that's not just straight jumping off of like a high dive in a pool. It's more of like a lake or something.
No, like you can like climb the stairs and there's a bunch of like platforms you can jump off.
Okay.
And you like reach over to grab one of these or something.
So that's something when I was much younger, I used to do a little cliff diving. It was one of my favorite things to do. And so there were a number of places that you would go. And one of the dangers about it was that a lot of these places, especially if they were on rivers, I used to go all the time to this place down on Rock Creek, down by Kankakee. And if there hadn't been a lot of rain that year, the river would be really low. And if the river was too low, you couldn't jump. Because if you did, even when the river was high, most of the time, if you jumped straight like this, which you were supposed to do, your feet would tap the bottom. If the river was too low, you would nail it, and you could break your foot. You could break your foot, you could break your leg. And if you didn't jump, because the space you could jump in was probably only a little wider than this area right here. So if you missed the spot, you'd hit, because it was like a sinkhole in one spot. And if you missed the spot, you could hit a different spot that would break your leg. And the first couple times I did it, I was really apprehensive about doing it. Because you got to hit it just right. You know, I had to watch probably about 8 or 9 people go in so I could see exactly where that spot was, and I watched every single one of them walk out just fine. But I had a friend of mine we were doing cliff diving in Hawaii, and he missed a spot and hit his ribs on the side and broke 3 ribs. So you have to, you get apprehensive about it. Something else you might be apprehensive about. The spiders and the geckos in the house? Yeah. You know, being around spiders can make you apprehensive. When like I said, there are a bunch of different types of spiders in Hawaii. One of them is called cane spiders, and they can be about the size of your palm. And I walked into our bathroom one time to take a shower, and the light switch was on the roof, on the ceiling. And I went to go flip the light switch on, and about 3 inches from my hand was a cane spider, just sitting on the ceiling, right? So that can make you a little apprehensive, right? You're like, all right, maybe I don't want to go into that room again. Maybe I need to change apartments. So you can be apprehensive about things. Is being apprehensive always a bad thing? Is it a bad thing to be apprehensive? No, sometimes it can be a good thing. Somebody mentioned earlier the Carfax, right? Not knowing everything about a car before you buy it can make you apprehensive. It'll make you want to do more research, right? Not knowing everything about a certain thing before you do it can make you apprehensive. Like, for instance, let's say you were just walking home from school day. You got out of school, you're walking home, and on your walk home, this guy walks up to you. He says, "Hi, my name's Jimbo, and I just built a plane in my garage. And I want to know if you want to go skydiving out of my plane for $10.
Okay.
It's a great deal. I'll take you right now."
Okay.
Would you be apprehensive about going? Here's your question. I shouldn't ask, would you? Because some of you would just be like, I'll go. But should you be apprehensive about going? Probably. Why? What are some of the reasons why you should be apprehensive?
He could be a kidnapper. He could kidnap you.
He could be just a kidnapper to kidnap you. You don't know. There's so much you don't know. What else?
His parachute might have a hole in it.
You don't know anything about his equipment. His parachute might have a hole in it. What else? It's probably not safe. He might lie about it, right? Also, he said didn't he say he built his plane in a garage? Do you really want to fly in a plane that somebody built in their garage? Yes. I don't think so. All right. So sometimes being apprehensive is a good thing. All right, moving on. Explicit. What does explicit mean? Explicit. Bad? Okay. So unclean version.
It's like secret and you can't tell anyone about it.
Bad, secret, unclean, inappropriate. You guys are all going to be shocked at what it actually means.
What does it mean?
Stated clearly and in detail.
That makes sense.
Clearly stated and in detail. Here's why we use it for when we put on explicit lyrics, right? It's because they're not holding anything back. It's stated clearly and in detail. There's no editing. You know how sometimes they'll take a song and when they come to those explicit words, they'll mess with it and they'll edit it. They'll censor it out. What that means, what explicit means is that there's none of that. It's clear. It is very clear what they are saying. It's not edited or changed or modified or hidden in any way, shape, or form. It is clear what they're saying. Okay? So it is stated clearly and in detail. You can state things explicitly. If I were to give you the definition of something and state it explicitly, or if I were to give you an example, that's the other thing. Is a lot of times when you think about things that are explicit, it means that there's nothing hidden. So it would be like if I were to describe something to you, and I was to describe it explicitly, I would leave in every single detail, whether it was gross, disgusting, disturbing, offensive. I would leave all of that in because it needs to be clear. Okay? Sometimes being explicit is good. When you are warning somebody about something that they should be aware of, it's very good to be explicit. When you are giving someone directions on how to do something or what to do, it's good to be explicit. But not always. You don't always have to be that explicit. You don't always have to describe every single detail. Okay. I think I've told a number of you, I wrote a blog about how I created this tree. It was a very explicit description of how I created this tree, which means it was very clear, very detailed. I went into great detail talking about how I created this tree, which means that it was not a short thing at all. Very, very long. It did not need to be that explicit. It did not need to be that detailed. Two more. Idiosyncrasy. Anybody want to tell me what idiosyncrasy means? Idiosyncrasy. It does not have anything to do with idiot. Idiosyncrasy. Yeah. Okay. Organized. Justin. Okay. Here we go. Idiosyncrasy. An oddity that makes him or her unique. An oddity that makes him or her unique. Something about you or about someone else that makes them unique. Now, most of the time, when you're talking about idiosyncrasies, sometimes they're not always positive. And you don't always want to point out other people's idiosyncrasies. It's not the nicest thing to do. But people have them. Everybody has something that makes them unique, right? Everybody has something that makes them different, right? You have something about you that makes you a little bit unique, that makes you different from everybody else. My daughter, who they're mostly gone now, but if you see pictures of her when she was small, and I think you can't really see it in that picture, but she had hemangiomas, which is a collection of blood vessels really close to the top of your skin, and it creates a big red, like almost strawberry-like mark. And she had one on her forearm, on her right forearm, right in the middle, and she had one right underneath her right eye. And the one underneath her right eye was extremely visible. Like you couldn't look at her face without noticing it. She went through some medical treatments and stuff like that, and they faded, and you can't hardly see them anymore. But all that fades really is the redness. And so like there's a little bump of skin still underneath her eye, and there's a little one on her arm too. They are things, it's actually kind of interesting because when they were really tiny, we actually used those as ways to tell them apart. They looked enough alike when they were really tiny that you would know Alexia because she had the red dot on her arm. She would have her hemangioma on her arm. And that's how we knew it was Alexia, not Logan. Now it's, I mean, they're older and it's way obvious to tell which one's which, because my son doesn't have any hair. But it's an idiosyncrasy. It's something small. Now, would it be polite for somebody to just walk up and say, she's got a red thing on her face? Is that something polite to say? Is that something you would just point out to anybody? No. But it is something that is unique about her. Okay? It is something unique about her. There were people who wanted to know, like, they thought that she hit her face or something like that. So we would tell them, yes, she's trying to be a cage fighter. All right, there's one last word. And it's a word I'm hoping you all should know. I think most of you should know.
Candy.
It's, I'll spell it for you. It's cadaver. C-A-D-A-V-E-R. Cadaver. C-A-D-A-V-E-R. Does anybody know what a cadaver is?
I know what cadaver is. It's a magical.
No, come on. Nobody knows what a cadaver is?
No.
Really? Huh? It's not an animal.
Dead body.
It's a dead body.
Oh.
A cadaver is a dead body.
Of course. Come on.
Cadaver is a dead body, right? Most of the time you hear a cadaver used when they talk about science. So whenever they do work on a cadaver, they're doing scientific experiments or they are investigating something, they're doing an autopsy. In the science world, we use this term a lot, a cadaver. Okay, it's talking about a dead body. All right, now that we have all our terms down, we're going to move on to the next part of what we're going to do today, and that is we're going to do our very first journal prompt of the year. So if our windows would please go grab your journals from the filing cabinet. I wrote cadaver on the board, and before she could do, like I said what it was, and then I wrote on the board. And before I even got like up there, she goes, I'm a cadaver. I'm like, okay. She didn't say. I didn't hear what she said then. I didn't even hear that she had said it. Whoever was sitting next to her. You're a cadaver. I didn't tell you. Lauren. No, you can tell her I told you. All right, trees, please go get your... If you're over there getting your journal, please make it quick. Grab your journal, go sit down. You're a door. The only people who are trees are people who are actually in the middle. Like inside, like imagine this is a big U, and they're inside. No, Jack is not a tree. I'm not sure what Jack is.
Jack, yeah.
Huh?
Why did Jack play?
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure out which ones actually work. Jack and Patrick or Jack and It's quietly sitting next to Andrew.
And you can't hear them when they're talking.
Right, I know. All right, doors, please go get your journals. Doors.
Dora.
For those of you who have your journals are ready, here is your prompt. Words, we just gonna use it.
How big does this going to be?
Huh? Long enough to use all the words. Guys, go have a seat. Get your journal. I try and read all of the journals at some point in time. Yes, whenever you write, you should be, well, when you write, you should always be in paragraph. Here's the thing. There's no set length to this, but it does have to be a story that makes sense. And you need to use as many of the worthwhile words, which is all the words we just got done working with. You need to use as many of them as possible. Try to use them all. I think I had 4 people last period or last class who were able to use all of them. Try and use all of them. All right? We're only going to spend about 10 minutes doing this before we move on to our last thing.
Wait, does it have to be like a 5-paragraph thing? Does it have to be like a 5-paragraph?
It's a story. Stories don't ever have a set number of paragraphs. A story is a story. Now, should you write in paragraph form? Always. Always write in paragraph form. But I don't have a set number. The requirement is to use as many of the words as you can. No.
Can we underline the word?
Underlining is fine. But what you really need to do is you need to start writing and stop talking. Writing is almost always silent. Oh yeah, I like it so much. Does anybody in the back